I've learnt a hell of a lot in the 12 years I've been here. Plenty of tough times and plenty of hard lessons. I'm always up for seeing new things and exploring new ways. I suppose it just intrigues my mind and keeps me stimulated and enjoying my job. Certainly don't get it all right, and I seem to be a good one to ask about what not to do because I've ticked a lot of those boxes.
My name's Jeremy Walker. I farm in Green Range on a property called Kilchatten. We're currently running up to 22,000 sheep in peak of season on 12 to 1,400 hectares, season depending, and between 650 and 1,000 hectares of crop. A combination of our environmental factors and a desire to match our feed curve more closely with the requirement has driven me down a few different avenues. Confinement feeding, summer crops, centre pivot, to name a few. So this is my story.
The family farm was purchased a few years before I was born. My granddad and my dad were farming together. They'd been farming in Kilchatten, between Kilchatten and Broome Hill at the time. At the time, this was an early settled area, war service settled area, and these farms were semi-cleared and there wasn't that much known about the sandier soil types. They worked out that they could sell and buy down here and run more sheep, and I think they went from a 200 and something bale clip to a near on 500 in 1 year with the same amount of dollars spent on land. At 11 years old, things were pretty tough time in farming. They eventually made the decision that they would take the easy money of blue gums, which everyone around us was doing at the time as well. The company then later went bankrupt. They managed to get out after one cycle of trees, which was about 13 years. So I came back to a farm full of stumps and a bank account with nothing in it, basically, but a few sheep and a bit of land, and that's all you need really to get a start at something. It was very much a crawl before you can walk before you can run situation. It took a while to get momentum, get money, and be able to afford clearing costs. We farm in a pretty high rainfall area. I think our average is, for the time I've been here, isn't that far off 700 mil. That poses its challenges. It's very low-lying, flat country. Waterlogging is a huge issue for us and by far our biggest constraint. We get huge season variability being so coastal. We're 12 k's from the coast. In the time I've been here, yearly rainfall has ranged with a gap of 570 mil. Other weaknesses of the place is probably light soil types that we really have to put high inputs into to get crops, and high disease pressure, high fly pressure, high worm pressure. It's just a high input style of farming down here. We're a self-replacing merino operation, mating about 10,000 ewes, and mate probably about 30 or 40% to crossbreds or to White Suffolk. We've come from a Walker-bin bloodline base is where we started from, but yeah, we've been infusing a bit of all sorts into it and working towards Centre Plus, multi-purpose merino tech type style of sheep. We do need to breed something that's pretty open, free-growing wool that can handle the water, and something that's quite fly-tolerant, worm-tolerant, and doesn't run to colour too much in general in the wool. Low worm egg counts is also very high on the agenda. Breech wrinkle is reasonably high on our selection. Trying to chase something reasonably balanced, not just targeting one specific trait, and obviously something with a high number of lambs weaned as well is ideal. On average across the year we would probably shear somewhere between 15 and 20,000 depending on what we're keeping and running through to finish and what we're selling as stores and all the rest of it. The main target of what I'm doing is trying to spread the feed curve out a little bit into summer, and ideally finishing lambs into an off-peak season. Our pasture base is a bit of a mixed sward, I suppose. Long seasoned pasture varieties, we normally put a grazing oat in for a bit of early bulk, a good portion of ryegrass. There is just nothing like it for livestock. Normally some subs and also some balances. We also have perennial pastures in the mix, and yeah, plenty of summer species as well. A big part of us filling our autumn feed gap is early sowing opportunities. Pastures are one part of that, but the other part, I suppose, is crop grazing. We graze a number of different crops. The best success we've had is probably been this year with Illabo wheat. We're trying some Bennett as well this year. I think the grazing wheats are a great option. You probably compromise a touch on weed control, but if you get a finish, they still seem to yield, and they're fantastic feed quality and get up and about early and provide masses of feed. This year we put 160 hectares of winter wheat in, and we had one paddock of winter wheat that held 60 DSE for about 3 weeks, which can really take the pressure off the rest of your farm. So our sheep basically came out of confinement while we're letting our pastures get away. They didn't actually have to go onto those pastures straight away, so they went straight out onto winter wheats. By the time lambing came around, they were onto really good quality pastures. As well as that, we've done a fair bit of winter canola. That's been a success of sorts. It was high costs getting the crop through and to harvest, but we're very happy with how it all went in the end of it. The biggest challenge since I've been back has been dealing with the highs and lows in general, just mentally handling it all. Everyone sort of thinks, oh, South Coast farmer, high rainfall, it must be all rainbows and sunshine, and it's certainly all rainbows, but a few too many rainbows at times. And yeah, sometimes things have been pretty tough. We've had 3 years now which have tipped over 900 mil. I think our canola average on those years has been 300 kilos. Because we kept on having these consistently wet years, we ended up going down the line of irrigation in the centre pivot. It was quite a big jump at the time, but yeah, really glad that we've done it. It's allowed us to finish lambs on green feed in off-peak season. The long-term hope is that might be able to secure up some markets to finish grass-fed lambs sort of all year round type thing. We've done a few other different things under the irrigation which making us decent guaranteed money. Part of that too was we were starting to build up a real worm burden under there from just having sheep on it so consistently. This year we've actually got some wheats and barleys and different things growing under it, as well as a hemp crop, which is just me exploring other avenues. So far the hemp's looking really good, and also pretty excited about what that could potentially do if Kilchatten Research Station are able to get that through as a grazing option. We've been doing hay since I've been home. We've recently been doing a lot more feed testing as we've been doing confinement feeding, so we're trying to work out exactly what we're feeding out, and our hay is disappointingly not really testing that much higher than our straw. We just keep getting rain on it again and again, so we're now moving towards more silage and straw. Silage is easier to fit into a window, straw is what it is. It's a bit of a buffer, something to chuck out there when you're confinement feeding, and it's cheap and easy. We started confinement about, I think it was 2018, we had a really windy, horrible year. Our paddocks were blowing everywhere. On top of that, we were doing so many Ks around the farm in the ute feeding sheep, and it just became a monstrous job feeding huge rations well into winter. It was a terrible start, and that shocked me into thinking, right, we need to do something better. And the following year we started confining sheep, get them off stubbles before they'd blown everything out, but also just to give pastures a chance to get away. Once we ventured into it, we just kept on stepping it up because it just made such a huge difference to our yearly capacity and yearly stocking rate. The other beauty of it is we stock all our sheep feed in one place now, and we feed it out in the same place. Everything's close to the sheds, and it's very quick and easy to do a feed run. We have been doing up to 6,000 ewes in confinement. This year I'm hoping for close to 10,000 in there. They're in 3 to 4 hectare paddocks. I do this so that we can run big mobs in there for one, but so that we can multi-purpose the paddocks over winter and seed them down, get the air seeder in there and get some other production off them during the year. We basically feed all using the same trough, so one 200 metre long trough, and it's actually just shade cloth, so very cheap and easy to set up. I think it only cost us about 3.5 grand. The biggest cost was the fencing and troughing of each paddock. We're set up on Breed Elite. It's software mainly for studs, but you can sort just about to any trait. You're obviously using EID for that, and there's so much you can do with it. With the confinement, we can just draft into weight categories as they go into confinement, or you can do a condition score draft using their auto drafter, which is fantastic. We always seem to need plenty of staff, and we do have older machinery and things that need fixing. I suppose the most important thing for me with staffing is people I get on with and people that can work in a team. It's probably one of my stronger points as a farmer, is that I do have a great relationship with all of my workmen, and that we all get on well and seem to have a healthy work environment. The other staff member is my wife. She does all our bookkeeping, sits in here a fair bit of the time, pays the bills and keeps me in check. She does a fantastic job. Her and my daughter, I've loved having them here on the farm, and it's great being able to do a journey like this with family, that's for sure. I was never one for classrooms. I'm more of a hands-on learner, but I am part of a lot of groups, and I find that they really help me with new ideas and keeping on top of everything and keeping myself in check with what others are doing. I'm part of the AgPro stock group. Also, I'm on the Stirling East Coast board. You pick up huge amounts through investing your time and energy into things like that, hosting trials. I have agronomists on tap out here with GRDC trials and nutrient trials, and so many different resources you can pull from if you're willing to put yourself out there. So that's probably my main source of knowledge from the farm, between that and Twitter. The end goal for me is to find a system that is sustainable, keeps the workman happy, keeps me happy, keeps the accountant happy and the bank person happy. I know I sort of get caught up a bit chasing fairies at times, but each time I'm exploring different things, you find things that work, you find things that don't, and right through the system there's been some things that have been definite winners and we've stuck with. Confinement feeding is probably one of them that's just totally changed the game. Crop grazing is another. I suppose I'd like to think that over time I'll just find my little niche and stick with it a bit more and have a system that we can sort of do year in, year out, that reliably works, would be the end goal.